Packers fans, stay up to date on all of your Packers news this season via our newsletter. You can sign up for the PackersNews.com and more Journal Sentinel newsletters by clicking on the link in the brief field of this video. Hello, Packers fans. Welcome into the Green 19 podcast from JS Online and PackersNews.com. I'm Kassidy Hill, joined as always by Tom Silverstein and Ryan Wood here at Lambeau Field, where we are gearing up for Week 15, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it feels like there's so many different familiarity storylines with this matchup because this is now technically the third calendar year in a row that these two teams have faced, but they look much different. This will also now be the third year in a row that the Packers have welcomed Baker Mayfield to Lambeau Field, where he has notoriously Baker Mayfield for the past 2 years, where he will be having a good game and then he'll make a costly turnover in the first half and then he'll make two more in the second half. Then it inevitably cost his team the game.
Quick question. Is that verb similar to Matthew Staffording?
Yeah, or
is that the same thing? Yeah.
In college, they call it Clemsoning.
Okay. Yeah.
Clemsoning. So yeah, he Baker Mayfield the past couple of years. So lots of storylines, but of course going to be an interesting one regardless. I was looking at this earlier today. These are two teams that are both 6-7. The Buccaneers are in the first spot in their division. The Packers are in the third.
Yep. Welcome to the NFC South.
Right. So both sort of trying to still get into the playoffs in a decent spot. And will need this Sunday to do it, especially after losing to the Giants on Monday night. Spoon, how much do you take of the past 2 years, but especially last year's 2022 matchup between these two teams? How much do you look at Sunday's game sort of through the lens of that game?
I don't know that anybody's going to be playing from that last game. There's so many
defense.
Injuries.
Oh, injuries, gotcha.
The Packers... there's been a lot of changes on both sides, and I think they're kind of different teams than they were. Packers certainly are a different team, at least offensively, and Buccaneers have had a lot of injuries on defense, and then, they got Baker Mayfield, which is a complete different, entity. So I don't know. I think it's, I think there's some familiarity with some of the veterans, but I don't know if this is going to be like a typical Buccaneers-Packers game.
Ryan, someone that inevitably, and I haven't looked at today's injury report, but who presumably will be familiar to Packers fans is Antoine Winfield, and he's someone that can really just kind of line up anywhere on the field. It seems like that he wants to. His given position, his government position is a safety. If you're Jordan Love, what do you do to prepare for this guy?
It's all about eye manipulation, right? And it's kind of fitting this week because the interception that he threw against the Giants last week was a lack of eye manipulation. He stared down where he was throwing downfield the entire time, and by the time that happened, he also woefully underthrew the ball, but the safety was there because he telegraphed it. You can't telegraph against Antoine Winfield, or really, we're being honest, NFL safeties in general. So that's an area of his game that he's going to have to clean up. It's going to be awfully important against a really opportunistic Bucs defense. That over the years just always kind of had Aaron Rodgers' number, right? They just historically Aaron Rodgers was as good as it's ever been at not throwing the ball to the other team, but he had his issues against this Bucs defense, so now it's Jordan Love's turn.
The eye manipulation in particular, that's something Jordan Love mentioned on Wednesday. When talking about Winfield, he said he's someone that you have to be able to look off. Spoon, have you seen that part of Love's game really yet? Even if you take this last week notwithstanding?
Not a lot of. He tends to go to his first or second read pretty quickly. And in fact, if you look at that deep ball, he had Dobbs open over the middle, would have been a first down. Wouldn't have been a big game, but it would have been a first down. They keep that drive going. So, yeah, I think that is a process of learning to go through your progressions, having confidence in your offensive line, and being able to move around the pocket so that you can get to those second and third and fourth reads.
You know how the coaches always say it's easier to cover up mistakes when you're winning? And like you would think, okay, it's easier to fix mistakes when you're winning, but it's also easier to cover them up. Do you think through that little winning spurt they went on that maybe there were some things that got, quote unquote, covered up that still needed to be worked on as part of just their natural growth as a young offense?
Maybe, but I think Jordan Love did not play to the level Monday night that he had the three games before that. I mean, he and that's going to happen. You know, I said it a week ago. I still believe it. I think he's a franchise quarterback. I think he's a quarterback that a franchise builds around. But a franchise quarterback doesn't play his best every week. That doesn't happen. You know, the week before was Patrick Mahomes that had the fourth quarter interception. A week before that, Jared Goff had 3 fumbles. So the franchise quarterbacks don't always play great, and Jordan Love didn't play great on Monday night. It's not a straight linear progression when you're a young quarterback. You're going to have dips and valleys, but he's had some high points too. Thing that he didn't do in those 3 games was turn the ball over. He was clean, and he wasn't clean on Monday night in a big game like this, and they're all big the rest of the way. That's the 0 interceptions of the winning streak were more important than the 8 touchdowns. And everyone sees the 8 touchdowns because a lot of those are big-time plays. But it's the mistakes you don't make that are awfully important.
We don't know yet if he will have Christian Watson and Aaron Jones back on Sunday.
He's not going to have Christian Watson.
Feel confident?
I don't. I'm very confident to say that.
He hasn't practiced Wednesday or Thursday, so that's and
Lefleur said he's not going to practice tomorrow.
Okay,
so he's not playing.
Then he won't be playing. Christian Watson spoke today, Thursday, when we're recording this, about, he's like, not to be cocky, but I feel like there is a certain skill set I can bring that's, maybe not there when I'm not on the field. And I think that's a fair thing to say.
Very fair.
He also did go on to say, though, I think that Tay Wicks is someone that can really kind of provide that. How does Tay Wicks provide that?
Well, I'm not sure how well he'll provide it with bad ankle. No, he's probably going to play, I would guess.
He has been practicing.
Well, he didn't practice Wednesday, practiced Thursday during the jog through. I would guess that he'll find his way.
Wednesday.
Right. It was just they had to estimate whether he would have practiced, and they said no. So my guess is he'll play, but I also think he won't be up to his he won't be himself because of that ankle. So I don't know if he can be. He can't step in. Nobody can really step into Christian Watson's spot. He's a unique athlete. When he's on, he's on, and we saw it against Detroit. We saw it Kansas City. He can be a real force. So I don't think they can replace him other than through the sum of their parts. That's really the only way they can do it, and that's what they didn't do against the Giants. And to get to your point about people saying, well, Jordan Love played bad. He did, but so did everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a bad game all the way around.
Disjointed and messy.
Yeah, and they were still in it. They still had a chance to win. But, when your special teams gives the ball up, when your defense can't make a stop at the end of a game, your offense coughs the ball up. It was just a bad day for them.
I don't think that game should necessarily, to Ryan's point, change anyone's overall opinion on Jordan Love, but it does reinforce that there are still some things this offense is working through.
Yeah, I mean, if Jordan Love were in his second year, you would say he could have been the difference in the game. He could rise above and make plays that were the difference in the game. Like Aaron Rodgers used to do.
Yeah.
Whether it was running the ball, scrambling, whether it was making some ridiculous throw. He's not there yet. Mm-hmm. He's not there. He can't raise a team on his own shoulders.
That's to me, an MVP level quarterback that lifts all tides. That the guy that when everything's going wrong around you, you can overcome that. A franchise quarterback, that's what you build your franchise around, this quarterback, right? And I've said, I think we all agree that Jordan Love's not at that. We don't know if he's going to be an MVP level quarterback, a Super Bowl winning quarterback, what his ceiling is. We don't know that it reaches there. We just know that they need to build around him. So yeah, I think that's a very interesting point of that's the question that's on the horizon for him to yet to answer. Will he ever be that kind of quarterback? Is his ceiling that? We don't know.
Yeah. Let's go back to what you said about replacing Christian Watson just with the sum of their parts. Let's say on Sunday, Tay Wicks' ankle is not necessarily where it needs to be, and they are going to have to let's build a Christian Watson out of the parts that they have. What do they do on Sunday versus this very stingy Bucs defense to sort of flip the field if they need to?
Well, there's several variables, and one of those is Tampa going to have all of its players on defense? Mm-hmm. They could be without a starting safety and a starting corner. Carlton Davis is hurt, and Ryan Neal is hurt. So I don't know if either of those guys will play. And if they don't play, then that's a little bit of an advantage. Whether that's enough, I don't know. But I think it's going to be hard because we didn't address it yet, but A.J. Dillon is a big question mark with a broken thumb. I don't know how a running back plays with a broken thumb. I don't know how they would manage it. Yeah, well, I asked Stenovich today, can he carry with one arm the whole time? And he can, but he's absolutely in the game to run the ball if he's in, because you're not going to be throwing unless he wants to catch one-handed, or maybe they can put a bunch of stickum on his hand or something,
like Little Giants.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really interesting answer that he gave to you, because it's really the catching. It's not the carrying. It's the catching that is really problematic, and then you're telegraphing to the defense why he's on the field. It's a significant day from an injury perspective, because there's bad news and there's good news too. Like I don't know at the start of the week. I asked Matt Lefleur, and he said he wasn't surprised, but it sure didn't look like at the start of the week that their first practice this week, they're definitely going to have Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks both on the field. So the fact that they're trending toward playing is definitely good. Whereas Aaron Jones, we don't know if he's going to play. A.J. Dillon, we don't know if he's going to play. So I'm curious what you guys think of this, but this has been in my head. I think I know where I'm at. I think ultimately, if you had to choose which pair you want, I think you'd still take Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks so that Jordan Love's not depleted on where he's throwing the ball to. They've got some veteran depth behind them. Patrick Taylor's had two pretty solid games if you forget the fact that he doesn't know where out of bounds is. But, that what's lost in the fact that he's had three chances at late in the half, the last two games, to step out of bounds, is the fact that he's had 81 yards the last two games, which is the most in his NFL career back-to-back consecutive weeks. So he's made some plays. And then Kenyon Drake. So I think they're in a better shape having Reed and Wicks available than they would be without the two running backs. Let's say they don't play. Than they would the inverse of that, having the two running backs and no one to throw to. But it's close. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting debate. Like, who would you rather have? Because both duos provide something that the other doesn't. And
the problem is Aaron Jones, if he plays, is not going to be, 55 play Aaron Jones.
Right.
He's going to be 20 play Aaron Jones. A.J. Dillon plays, he's a one-armed man, he'll be in the fugitive.
That would also prevent him pass blocking, wouldn't it?
Affect, yes, it would. And could you just see lining him outside as a wide receiver from Tampa? I wouldn't even put anyone out there,
right.
Well, like you just said, though, with Wicks and the ankle, he might not have the same juice.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. They just need someone to have a really big game. Maybe it's Tucker Kraft.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Dobbs. Someone has to. Maybe it's Malik Heath. He's kind of on a little bit of a roll. Samori Toure played pretty good, I thought, in the game. So, it's kind of the story of their whole year. Who's going to be the one who comes, to play?
Yeah.
To answer your original question, Cassidy, they're not going to be able to just take the remaining parts and build a Christian Watson. They can't do that. It's not available.
I don't think it's
They
possible.
can't Frankenstein together a
no,
Christian Watson.
no.
They don't, that's not on the table here as far as options. When Christian Watson's not on the field, there's an element of their passing game, an element of their offense that is irreplaceable. They can't replace it. So what they have to do is...
That is the definition of irreplaceable.
Yeah.
They could put Jaden Reed on Dontavian Wicks' shoulders, but he can't run 4.36.
Yeah. So even
while
that
he's
doesn't
doing
work.
that, right?
So what they'll have to do what they did Monday night, and even like Monday night, look, it wasn't their best game, but they still scored 22 points against a Giants defense that is not terrible. They ranked top 10 in opposing passer rating. And they had more plays out there to make. I mean, they put 22 points up in a bad game where there's 2 months ago, bad games for this offense was like you can't get a first down. Even in a bad game, their floor is much higher than it was 2 months ago. Their floor is enough, especially considering, again, they left plays on the field that could have been made. There was drop passes, missed throws.
Yeah.
They got to make those plays, and if they make those plays, I think that there's enough here without Christian Watson to still have a winning performance.
It was sort of like Joe Barry was saying, only it was on offense. If Jaden Reed doesn't lose the ball in the lights, that's a touchdown.
Yeah.
And then the game is decidedly different. If Love throws that ball to Touré in the end zone just a tad longer, that's a touchdown, and that's the difference in the game. So they were very close to winning it. Again, they just needed one person to come up with some really big play.
Yeah, so it's not, the answer is not try to replace Christian Watson. The answer is execute better.
Play better, yeah.
You got to execute. That's what you got to do.
While we're on just offense, let's go over A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones' injuries a little bit because they both gave a little bit more detail about them today. A.J. Dillon said that he broke his thumb on the last drive versus the Giants on a helmet, and then they called a running play the very next play. So he stayed in and finished that drive with a broken thumb. This has nothing to do with anything. I just think it's interesting and slightly ironic. This is now 2 years in a row that a Packers offensive starter has broken their thumb on a helmet versus the Giants on the last drive.
Who was it last year? I think everyone forgets.
That would be Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, that did happen.
Yeah, on the Hail Mary at the end,
Yeah.
right?
He played quarterback, right?
So I hear. He was
Yeah.
he did something.
He was fairly good.
Yeah. If he was-
Couldn't play with a brace on. Come on.
I know. I wonder if A.J. Dillon could. But I just thought that was interesting and kind of funny that now 2 years in a row. That's like such a random injury, it feels like, and now it's happened twice in somewhat of the
It's
same
weirder to
situation.
happen to a running back than it is a quarterback. Happens with
Yeah.
quarterbacks. I mean, they're following through, and if there's a guy's helmet
Yeah.
there, they're hitting their head.
I wonder if it's the same defender. Because wasn't Rodgers on Thibodeau's helmet? I'm trying to remember
I
now.
don't remember. But
It's
Brett
Ricky
Favre
looking
did
like-
the same thing in one of
Really?
his in 1999.
If that was versus the Giants, too, then that would be
No, it was a
freaky.
preseason game against Denver, I think.
Time is a circle.
It is.
History is secular.
It's just all, yeah. It's time travel's real. Did y'all? If you had to
boy.
if you had to have a
All
choice
right,
between are
all
aliens
right,
real
back it
or is
off,
time travel
back
real?
Did Taylor Swift invent it?
No,
No,
but
okay.
that she could be here from another time. You never know.
Back this puppy back.
And then Aaron Jones explained, he's had MCL injuries before, and he's always come back in 1 or 2 weeks. This one's taking a little bit longer. I was gearing up to ask him, is it because you're older? But he actually explained it's because all of his previous MCL injuries, tears, whether on the left or right knee, have all been on the femur, and this one is on the tibia. This is the first time it's ever been on the tibia. And then he kind of broke it down and said, when it's on the femur, like, you can feel it and it feels a little loose, but like you can, sort of get through it. When it's in the tibia, as soon as you lift your foot off the ground, it feels like it's just hanging there. And
That doesn't sound pleasant.
as someone who has a ride through their entire right tibia, I can tell you, like, when it's,
You have a rod in your tibia?
yeah. it
How are we
goes
just
from-
finding this out?
It goes from my knee to my ankle.
Wow.
I can tell you when it's going to rain. I can tell you when it's cold.
So you broke your tibia.
Yeah. In
That's
half.
That's like your second largest bone in your body.
It was
something like
painful.
What's the largest? Spine?
Femur,
Femur. Okay.
Yeah.
which
it was,
I broke.
Really?
Yep.
How did you break yours?
I don't know if I should say.
Oh, now you got to
I
say.
was 16 years old.
I was 17.
I broken a finger. My story's not nearly
Yeah,
as
you don't
cool
win
as
this
you.
argument.
no,
You don't win
you
this
don't
I
win.
story.
decidedly lost
A
this
femur
one.
is extremely painful, and so is a tibia.
Yeah.
There's players I know who can't play after they break
Yeah.
their tibia.
I was just going to say, as someone who has done something to that bone, you don't realize how much of your body it supports until it hurts. And so I can especially see for a running back, that one being a little bit more difficult to work through.
Yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. So that could be why it's taking him a little bit longer to get back. I don't think this has anything to do with this week, and I wouldn't even say next week, and I don't want to be getting anybody's hopes up, but I feel like we should report this. Today was the first day Luke Musgrave has been seen like in the practice building. He was with the rehab group, of course. He's not going to be practicing probably for a while. But this is the first time I've actually seen him on the field with the rehab group.
And in the locker room, I saw him in the locker room.
Oh, I didn't
First
even see
time
him
I
there.
saw him in the locker room. Yeah.
So, I mean, what is a timeline for a lacerated kidney?
I'm
A
sure.
non-Aaron Rodgers timeline.
Yeah, I'm sure there's. It's probably they keep doing, scans on him to make sure it's healed. I don't know what the timeline is. But the fact that he's doing stuff, he's up and doing stuff, is the first step in getting back on the field, and maybe there is a chance he could get back.
Yeah, I don't know what the timeline is, but I do know whenever that time comes, those two tight ends together, that's going to be something to watch because Tucker Kraft is taking off.
Yeah, and that
Aircraft.
wouldn't have happened if Musgrave didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, in some ways, it's been beneficial,
Yeah.
that because Kraft was being just used as a second blocker.
Yeah.
Musgrave was getting all the action. So
We didn't know any of this really existed with Tucker Kraft before the injury, and he's even doing things that the coaching staff was unaware that he could do, like the catch down the middle of the field. Adam Sinovich is like, I didn't see it.
I was always curious, though, because coming out of college, Tucker Kraft's receiving numbers were infinitely better than Luke Musgrave's.
Yeah, and that's what kind of surprised me when, Stanovich said that, because if you look at his college tape, I mean, he got a lot of balls down the field. I'm not sure what they were. Maybe they didn't feel like he did it a lot. But I always thought he had. I just remember watching his highlight videos.
He's an athletic guy. I've talked a bit with Tucker Kraft about this, and he'll tell you that he's a check down yak guy. Get the ball to his hands.
A very good yak guy.
Underneath. Doesn't mean he can't run a route past 10 yards, but that's what, in his words, that's what got him to the NFL. And even before Kansas City, I was talking with him, about Travis Kelce, and asked if he grew up a fan of Travis Kelce. He's like, no, I was a Gronk guy. Like, I was all about Gronk. And he kind of looked at, Luke Musgrave as more the Kelce type, prototype, and he was just the Gronk guy. And Gronk could catch balls downfield, but Gronk was like, get him the ball and let him run the defense over. Like, that was his game. So Tucker Kraft doesn't view himself as a certifiable deep threat, and then he goes and catches a 40-yarder against the Giants. Like, that's just where he's at right now. He is exploding into this offense. And when Luke Musgrave does come back, that's going to be a good problem to have, right? How do you get creative and balance these two guys out? Because if you do that, they could be an awfully dynamic duo.
You put a ton of pressure on the defense if you go double tight end.
Yeah.
And you're saying, okay, what are you going to match us with? Are you going to match us with a base defense, or are you going to match with a nickel? And so if it's a base defense, then you put Luke Musgrave out in the slot, or Kraft, and all of a sudden he's on a linebacker. Or if they're in nickel, then you say, oh, okay, we'll go double tight end and run the ball. So it's a great thing to have two tight ends.
And this is why
who can catch.
This is why they drafted him back to back too, because this is Matt Lefleur's dream offense to have 2 tight ends that can do those things. Like, he wants to go multiple. He wants a lot of 12 personnel. And to do that, you've got to have 2 guys that are capable, right? But if they keep developing, they are on a path to be capable. And that would be Matt Lefleur's dream offense. You want to see Matt Lefleur's offense in its purest form, it's a lot of multiple, a lot of 12.
Let me throw something else out there just to tickle your fancy, even though I know this one wouldn't be near as common. But they also have run a lot of 3 tight end sets, and they have also shown they're not scared to throw to Ben Sims. You could send all 3 of them out there as legitimate pass-catching possibilities.
Ben Sims is the fastest of all 3 guys.
And
he
is he the
tested
tallest?
faster. I don't think he's taller than Musgrave.
Yeah, Luke Musgrave may be a smidge taller.
Yeah, but he is the fastest, and he might be, I don't know, he's a decent blocker, too. They saw something in him.
Yeah.
He'll be in the mix next year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Could be in very interesting tight end
How
group.
crazy is that?
Yeah,
For years, for decades, right? Like, they haven't had tight ends, and now they've got a slew of them that are promising. We don't know, just like Jordan Love, we don't know where their ceiling is. They got to keep developing, but they've shown enough to be promising, and it's like, goodness.
And they're going to get a very good, mostly blocker, but they're going to get a very good blocking tight end back in Tyler Davis when he returns from his injury.
Yeah, we'll see how.
He might get lost in the shuffle or kicked out. After
Well,
this
and
group,
you never
but-
know how a guy responds from a ACL. I mean, look at Robert Tonyan.
Yeah,
He never made it back to where he was.
yeah.
The Packers are chock full of tight ends. I never thought I'd see that.
Yeah, I mean, you can say of Kraft and Musgrave, they're both going to play out their first contracts.
Yep.
It's not like, okay, they're like 7th round picks, and then the next thing you know, they're cut after a year. These guys will last their whole contract.
Well, will be interesting to watch, that's for sure. Let's flip to the other side of the ball, unless there's anything else you want to talk about on offense. Bada bing, bada boom, doo doo doo.
Going once.
Yeah,
Going
you're done.
twice.
Let's flip to the other side of the ball. Jair Alexander practiced again today. He practiced last week too, and then
And the week before that.
And the week
before
before
that.
he did have a shoulder brace on today that he put his jersey on over. I'm not actually sure if he's been wearing that for a while. Maybe we just haven't seen it because of his jersey, but it was seen today, and then he put his jersey on over it. So not sure what the story is going to be with him on Sunday, but they haven't necessarily been like incredibly hurting without him because, Carrington Valentine's been able to kind of step up. Carrington Valentine did give up a 9-yarder on the final drive that Joe Barry had an interesting...
Joe Barry pointed out it was 8 yards.
Okay.
Didn't you say that?
Yes.
We'll give back that yard.
Yes.
But explain
did.
what Joe Barry had to say about that today, because I thought that was interesting. Spoon.
Yeah, it was interesting. He said that Carrington Valentine didn't get the call, that they were in, that there's various kinds of 2-minute defenses that they play, and that he didn't get the call that they were supposed to be closer to the line of scrimmage for, they're supposed to be playing it more aggressively. Mm-hmm. And he said because he was on the far side of the field, he just, I don't know, I thought the safety was supposed to make sure he gets that call.
That is one of those things, to go back on what I just said 60 seconds ago, that's one of those things where you see the difference between Rasul Douglas and Jair Alexander being on the field versus Corey Ballantyne and Carrington Valentine. Those two, and especially with Darnell Savage, or even when it was Jonathan Owens, they got the call. And
Douglas would have said, why am I 9 yards? Why are we playing this defense right now?
Yeah.
He would have seen what everyone else was doing and adjusted himself.
Checked, yeah.
And so Barry said that's on him to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, well.
So, okay, Rasul Douglas has been in the league a lot longer than Carrington Valentine, so to your point, he would have noticed it and adjusted it himself. If you're Joe Barry, how do you fix that so it doesn't happen again?
Darnell Savage, make sure that he knows what the call is, or Jonathan Owens. One of you two guys has to make sure everybody's in the right place.
That's why they're called
simple.
safeties.
Yeah.
Because they're there for safety.
So
someone that did practice also again today, or that did practice on Thursday, was Quay Walker. That could be huge, of course, just to have him back. We have appropriately praised Isaiah McDuffie for stepping in where he's had to and playing almost like his hair's on fire, which is a slight joke because he's bald. But having Quay Walker back on the field just changes the look of this defense.
I so want to see Walker and McDuffie play on early downs. I just want to see what it's like. I don't know, Devondre Campbell's not making plays. Is he making tackles and being in the right place? Possibly. But if you remember his really good year before his contract year, he was everywhere,
All-pro year.
He was seeing, yes. Yep. And he was seeing plays before they happened. And now, he had that chance. There's another play where that ball down the left sideline to Wan'Dale Robinson. The angle I had, I was like, this is a sure interception.
Yep, same.
And he just misplayed it.
Overran it.
Yeah. And so
and he had to have help just to make the tackle.
Yeah.
Somebody came in. Was it Owens or I can't remember
Might
now.
have been. But McDuffie's so aggressive against the run that I thought he played great against Barkley. That you just wonder maybe they need to give him some first downs, or rotate like they're doing in the other positions with him and Campbell.
You look like you're gearing up to say something, Ryan.
Oh, my back is killing me.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
It's getting old.
These chairs are not comfy.
No,
No.
they're not.
So you probably, what is, I would say 55, 57% chance you'll have Quay Walker back on Sunday, and we'll have a better idea of what that number will look like after Friday's injury report.
Yeah, so I asked Lefleur today about Alexander because I kind of heard that, he has to pass like a strength test every week in order to be cleared. And so I asked Lefleur, does it come down to whether he could tackle or not? And basically said, he said that is a factor. So I'm guessing that's a big factor. Do they feel like the shoulder is strong enough that it won't get popped out of place or
So you
whatever?
think that's the same case for Walker, too?
So it could be, but you sure need your shoulder to tackle. So I wonder what the situation is with him.
Especially with today's rules.
And we've seen where they will bring a guy back to practice 2 weeks before he plays. So they'll bring him back, let him practice, then not play him, and then, get him going the following week.
And
that's part of their rehab.
That's the thing that's different in this case is because Jair Alexander's been more than 2 weeks. But I do think it's important to underscore he is injured. There is an injury here. Mm-hmm. It's not shenanigans. And with Jair Alexander, sometimes there are shenanigans.
You always
he's
suspect
injured.
shenanigans because he's a shenanigan.
He has an injury. That's why he's not playing.
Let me ask you this, and maybe this is hindsight, but should they have put him on IR? This is a two-part question. Should they have put him on IR? And do you think not putting him on IR was a nudge to play through it?
People ask this on the blog a lot, and I keep saying it over and over again. They didn't need his roster spot. There wasn't somebody so great that they had to get on their roster spot that they needed to put him on injured reserve.
And they even have an extra one right now.
Plus, what if he's ready? What if he would have been ready after 3 weeks?
Yep.
And then you got him on IR, and he can't even practice during that time. So at least he's practicing.
You can't treat IR with revisionist history with injuries. That's the I in IR. With injuries, you can't be revisionist because everybody heals at different rates. And as soon as Jair Alexander's healthy, you want him on the field. And you don't have a crystal ball, so you don't know when that is. But what you do know is you put him on IR, it's 4 games. So if he's healthy in 3.
Without practicing.
Yeah.
And think about it. Now he's been practicing so that when he is physically ready, he's going to be able to just jump out there and play. It shouldn't be that big of a jump. Whereas Eric Stokes, for the first time he came back, he didn't practice like a week or 2, and then, he jumps out on the field, and all he can do is play special teams. Mm-hmm. And that's probably all he can do this week if they play him. So I think it's really beneficial that he can actually practice.
Yeah. Eric Stokes has been practicing, so that's, what is it? Oh, it's just because the screen's locked, and it's not showing the second.
Oh, okay. I was just worried that it had stopped.
This is a timer, Grandpa. And then when you open it,
Oh, the phone.
What?
see, it keeps
Is that one of those cricket phones?
Get off
Not
my
cricket.
lawn.
What do you call the old
cricket
people?
phone, the jitterbug.
Jitterbug.
Jitter. Or what's the song? Now I can't think of the jitterbug song. Do-do-do-do-do.
Did Taylor Swift write that one?
Do-do-do-do-do-do.
The Wham song? You mean?
With jitterbug into my
Daddy
heart.
shark doot doot
No,
doot
no,
doot.
No, you're thinking of the Wham song.
Yeah.
Do the jitterbug.
We have to leave
Yes.
all this on the
Jitterbug.
podcast. We cannot cut any of this out.
That's
That's
Wham.
the
That's
song.
George Michael.
Yes, it is. I can hear it now. Jitterbug into my face.
I have no idea what song this is.
That's the song that's
And
playing.
I have kids.
When it's not a kid's song.
Okay.
That's the song that's playing when all of Ben Stiller's friends blow themselves up in Zoolander.
Definitely
Oh,
a
is
kid
that-
song.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Eric Stokes has been practicing. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him, albeit like you said, on just special teams, but maybe in the next week or so, just to get him some. I don't think he's going to roll back into a starter this season at this point.
What if
But just to
they
get him some snaps.
What if they throw him out against Mike Evans because he's a big, tall dude? You
That
know,
would certainly
and
be
he's
bad.
fast.
That'd be a choice.
Back into it.
That'd
It's
be
a possibility.
That'd be a choice. I don't
It's like,
know
hey,
if it's a
you've played
good one.
4 snaps this entire season.
Yeah.
Now go out there and defend one of the best receivers in the NFL.
But he has been. What has he been practicing for 3 weeks? He was put on
I
IR
think this
and
is
he's
his
on
third.
designated to return.
Yeah.
So this is his 3rd week. You could do it for a series or 2, or maybe in the red zone, or where you need.
I don't see it happening.
Guy.
I'm gonna go ask him. I
don't- I
can't
just
tell
don't
if
see
you're
it
being
happening.
serious or
I
not.
am. No, I'm being totally
Yeah.
serious. I'm being totally serious. He's a
don't
first
see it
round
happening.
draft pick.
That has played 4 snaps in the past year.
And not well
Well,
last year.
Yeah. Last year is last
I'm kind
year.
of over last year. Like, yeah.
But we don't know if the guy
And he
can
was
play,
actually
though.
playing well when he got hurt.
I'm
I
more
would-
so
I would
thinking
throw-
like he's gonna have some rust to shake off.
Well, yeah, but
You don't shake your rust off of your little Toyota.
Mike Evans is a good player, but he's not Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, because Jefferson's more smooth. But that's still like saying, hey, I'm going to take this little Toyota Corolla out to Thunder Road that's been sitting in the garage for a year and race it against this Ford F-150.
I'm just saying.
Your
all
Toyota
right,
Corolla
all right.
might be
you
faster,
guys are gonna be
but your Ford F-150 is going to
licking
run
my
it right
boots
over.
when they put him out there.
I can't believe I'm saying this because I definitely don't see this happening. But the argument for you to make, Spoon? I want to give
That you
you
haven't
give
been
your
wrong.
give your argument right here. Who's after that 2020 NFC Championship game? Who's the next player they drafted?
Eric Stokes.
Stokes.
You can draw some lines maybe and say that they at that point might have thought that they're all in and they need someone to cover Mike Evans.
I don't think it's
Cassidy's
happening.
just
No, it's definitely not happening. It's 100. No, I would be shocked if it
All
happened.
right, you guys will be
Okay.
looking
Hey,
at
Sunday-
me like when he threw the bomb to Justin or to Christian Watson.
Sunday night when we do this, I will give you all the props in the world
All
if
right.
this happens. But until then, it's definitely not happening.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, last thing. What did Rich Bisaccia have to say about Keyshawn Nixon's muffed punt?
We're moving on. It's over.
It's a bad play.
Yeah, bad play.
Don't do that.
We
Wipe your
don't
hands
coach
of
it that way.
I asked him specifically if he was going to be the kickoff returner on Sunday because he wasn't after the muff. And Rich Bisaccia said that the only reason Keyshawn Nixon wasn't the kickoff returner and that they put Jaden Reed in is because he was dealing with a quad, which might also explain the end of the game, too.
Yeah, what you brought up, you asked me, did he get benched?
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I thought he did, but you were right. He went
Yeah.
into the tent.
Yeah.
So,
He was in the tent during the kickoff.
yeah, but then
But
from
then
that
there was
point
another,
on,
there was
There was
one more
another one.
kickoff.
And he was still in the field, which was,
That's
and then
just-
he gave up a
Right.
big
Yeah.
play.
right.
I couldn't remember if there was another kickoff after that kickoff, which is why I asked. But there was.
I think there was.
There-
yeah.
There was.
There was. I went
There
back and
definitely
checked.
was. So that's what, he is their kickoff returner. He also said, and I think this is where the rubber hits the road with Keyshawn Nixon. We all know that Keyshawn Nixon wants to make a play every time he has a chance, every time he has the ball. Literally every time. He plays like that. but there's a proper time and place to do that when we're trusting you with the ball. And so I think that's the balance they have to strike. Is the last thing you want to do is make this fearless player who's dynamic because he is so fearless playing with fear. You got to preserve that. But the common sense things, if you are lucky enough to recover your own muff punt, thank the stars and let Jordan Love run onto the field. Just don't get up. It's just the common sense things.
They would have gotten it at the 28-yard line. You just laid on it.
Yeah, it's the common sense things. But the last thing you want to do is have him play with fear, because he's fearless, and that's probably the best attribute of his game.
As my mother always said, though, a little fear is healthy.
I had a great day with Rich Bisaccia today.
You sure did.
And that followed me and Lefleur having a great day as well.
They don't. I don't know
Lefleur
if they stream.
and I.
Yes.
Here's how you always remember it. If you took Lefleur out of the sentence, would it be me or I?
Right. Well, no. Is it an object
right.
of the preposition, or is it
yes?
Right. Yes.
I don't think about it that way.
God, I loved it.
Yeah. So
Tell
just
everybody
ask
about what
Bisaccia.
happened.
Do you? There was that snap with the laces facing Anders Carlson.
Laces out, man.
Yeah. And I said, the one where he spinned it, and he said, turned it.
Mm-hmm. Not the same thing. Two different words.
Yeah.
Same verb. Same definition, really, but two different words.
Turned it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, is there a problem? And then he cut me off and said, it's not why you missed it, and it's okay. And
not a concern.
What do you say?
Not a concern.
And I said, well, I wasn't asking whether that was how he missed it, but, is that a concern? Or I said, is that something that is, a bad sign? And it's not a concern.
You heard a lot of yeses and a lot of not a concerns today. And I'm sitting between basically you and the podium. So I'm just sitting there totally in the middle of the line of fire. And I'm just like,
I'm loving it too.
I know you are.
Just fun. And then Lefleur, is Dylan. So I asked him, is the question whether they can protect Dylan or whether he can play with a thumb, or whether it's medically dangerous for him to be out there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Matt.
And I said,
yes.
Which one? Yes.
Was he smirking as he said?
He was kind of
he was enjoying
jerking
it too.
me,
Yeah. He
and
was.
I said something else. Yes. And I said, okay, is it both? Yes.
Well, then you
he
got
yes?
him. You won this battle.
Yeah.
Because I think when he said, "Is it both?" he paused because he knew that he was going to give you the actual answer at that point if he said yes again. So he paused and he was like, "You're good, Spoon.
Oh yeah,
You're
that's
good."
right.
I love
And you're
when
like,
you,
"I've been on this job a long time."
I love when you ask Lefleur about an injury and you always see that 3-second pause.
Yeah.
And he kind of smirks where he's trying to decide what he's going to say.
I have to say, we are so lucky that we don't deal with like Belichick.
Yep.
And, at least I can have that kind of
banter
discussion or banter with Lefleur.
I felt that way for a long time, actually.
After they've switched the schedule, I'm usually in locker room during Lefleur, so I don't ask him as much about it. But you can always tell from in that 3-second pause, you can always tell if he's going to answer you or not. There's just this certain little look he gets where you're like, yep, I got him.
Here's the thing: the season it's a long season, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here. I don't know how you two feel. I haven't caught up from coming back from New York. I mean, it is a long season, so to have that banter is. I
it makes
appreciate
the job easier.
It makes it more entertaining. It breaks up the monotony. I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's and I don't care if he's doesn't like the question or gets angry about it, but as long as he doesn't hold grudges,
right?
Then that's cool.
Well, I remember one day he snapped at me for a question.
Yeah,
I didn't even
remember
ask.
that.
And afterwards, all these people were like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'm like, sweetie, I started my career with Nick Saban. He don't scare me.
Yeah,
don't
right.
scare me.
Right.
Like,
Right.
But yeah, because he doesn't, like you said, hold grudges.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference. Okay.
I got
know-
a 6 a.m. Phone call in my hotel room from Mike Holmgren once.
Really?
Yes.
Yelling at you?
It was
Okay,
a
we need
PR
this story.
director who called me and said, Coach Holmgren would like to talk to you.
What do you want to talk to you about, Spoon?
So I reported this. I mean, it was like 2 graphs at the end of one of my note stories about how it was his first year, and he wanted to bring in Harry Sidney, who was a fullback for the 49ers, who knew his offense inside and out. Harry Sidney had just been cut, and Holmgren called him and talked to him. And I happened to talk to Harry Sidney because I got his phone number. And he's like, oh, yeah, we talked. Well, that's tampering, because he had not cleared waivers yet.
Ooh.
So when I put that in there, he wanted to know where I got it from. And you know how bad that looks. They're going to kill me because the 49ers had been mad that the Packers had taken Holmgren or talked to him, and they ended up having to settle it with a second-round pick because of a trade previous to that to Tim Harris. And I mean, it was like Holmgren was really sensitive about the 49ers.
What is it with like Packers and 49ers and hurt feelings with trade talks?
I don't know. They have a long history from the 90s on.
Yeah.
Keep your hands to yourself. Just
Said, don't give me no lines and
Sharing
keep
is
your
not
hands to
caring.
yourself.
Anyway, sorry to take
Anyways,
that.
I know our actual predictions will be in the Green Bay Press-Gazette and Milwaukee Journal Sentinel this weekend, but give me your overarching prediction, Spoon.
I've gone back and forth. I'm like really not sure. I have not given up on taking the Buccaneers. I don't have a good feel for this game. I don't know. I may. I don't know.
Okay.
Honestly, that's how I'm conflicted.
Conflicted.
I think
Good
that's.
word.
I took that out of
You're in a conundrum.
Analyze This. Have you ever seen that?
Is that Jim Carrey?
No, it's Robert De Niro and Billy Crystal, and
Oh.
he's the mobster, and Billy Crystal goes, "Tell me, you were going to shoot me, weren't you?" And he goes, "No, yes, you were." Well, I was conflicted about it.
it was in consideration.
Ryan?
Speaking of inconsideration, I don't know either. But that's a blanket statement for the rest of the season. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're going to beat the Panthers because they're the Panthers. I don't know what they're going to do. This is a team that can go to Detroit and win and go to New York and lose a week after they beat the Chiefs at home. Like, if anyone tells you that they have a good feeling on what's going to happen, they have no idea. So I don't know. I'm probably going to end up picking the Packers. Probably the biggest reason being the home team. A South Florida team coming up to Lambeau in December is something. I don't know how cold it's going to be, but it's going to be a heck of a lot colder than South Florida. So I'll probably pick the Packers, but nothing is going to surprise me from here on out. I have no idea.
I have a good feeling about what's going to happen.
Ooh, tell me.
Boy.
I'm kidding. But I mean, for the most part, when we've done these predictions, I've just kind of ended up going with my gut. And the one time I didn't go with my gut in the recent weeks, actually I did pick the Chiefs, but I think I hedged it by saying I'm not going to be surprised if this is like one of those games. The only time I didn't really go with my gut was when I picked the Packers over the Giants, and I should have gone with the Giants because when we did our question of the week, I went with the Giants.
Yeah, you're leaning that way.
And I was like, this is going to be one of those games. I just have a gut feeling this is a big Packers bounce back game. I think Baker Mayfield gets foiled by Lambeau in December yet again. And I think last week versus the Giants, or which I guess was technically this week, was maybe a needed humbling, a needed wake-up call.
Maybe.
After the previous 4 out of the 5 weeks, I think that was a good wake-up call because like y'all both said, they were in it. It was just a matter of executing 1 or 2 plays.
Yeah, maybe it would have been worse if they won it and played the way they did.
Here's the thing. It was a bad loss in New York. It was a bad loss. I mean, they had this game they should have won. It was an important game for playoff indications, continue momentum. They were the better team. I still believe they're the better team. It was a bad loss. But if it does provide that wake-up call, it's a good lesson. And frankly, even a good loss, right? I mean, okay, you guys are on the rise. You're talented. You got there's some good here. But you got to actually play like it, because that's what actually matters. It doesn't matter if you're good on paper. You have to be good on the field. If they got that out of that loss, then that's a good loss.
And listen, you don't just walk into Tommy DeVito's house and take him down.
No, you do not. Especially
Tommy
with this agent.
Especially with that
there.
agent.
Yeah.
No, that is like, if you could not have imagined a more perfect New Jersey Italian
and
agent.
that guy's going to get so many more clients now because he's got all that
Yeah.
TV time.
I saw somebody say, like, Tommy DeVito's agent, he has a guy for
Yeah.
everything. I know a guy.
He's the
He's got a
fixer.
guy.
I
He's
got
the
a guy.
fixer.
Yeah,
I got a
a
guy. Okay, final 60 seconds. Spoon, go. Don't commit insurance fraud.
Shh. Thanks. You just got me.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I heard nothing.
Me either.
I know nothing. Did you ever watch Faulty Towers? I know nothing. I know nothing.
Faulty Towers? Which one is that?
It's an old BBC show about a bed and breakfast north of London.
It sounds like I've seen that before. Anyway, I'm going to pass for right now, but I'll come back. Come back to me.
Same.
Okay. I feel like
So
I'm
why
being
don't you
set
go
up.
with your 60 seconds?
Yeah, it's 180 if you need it.
So I put this on social media on Wednesday, but in case you didn't catch it, this is my last week here on the Packers beat. It's,
Traitor.
I know.
Just in time
It's
for.
very, very sad. It's very the word that my friends and I keep using as an inside joke is bittersweet. I don't know if y'all remember, like, the Brewers opening day, Garrett Mitchell kept using the word bitter, because he hit like a home run. It was his first time. He kept using the word bittersweet to describe it, and I'm like, that's not the definition of the word bittersweet.
No, it is not.
And so we've been, like, ironically using it because this is actually bittersweet. So yeah, this is my last week. I got an incredible opportunity to be a team reporter, ironically, with the Carolina Panthers. My first game with them will be the Packers game. Something that the players in the locker room this week have not let me forget. Every time I walk up to them, they're like, "You're an op now. I got to be careful."
Yeah, that's right. You're the enemy.
Yeah. And so was not looking to leave here, was not planning on it, have loved my job, have loved every day, most days, working with y'all.
So why did you look at me when you said that?
But it was just a great opportunity to kind of work a little bit closer with a team, get even more access to stories, and even more importantly, be within driving distance of my family. I was
That's
like,
important.
if I can get in a car and be to my mama that night, that's a good distance. You know, I want to be able to do that. And so, and it'll be warmer, which was not a reason, but was a plus. So it's definitely going to be sad leaving, but yeah, it was just one of those opportunities you don't say no to. And so Monday will be my last day.
I'll take my 60 seconds down, then Spoon
Yeah,
can
you go ahead.
have the last word. But yeah, obviously we're going to miss you. When you, first of all, and I'll never forget this,
Oh gosh.
we met
Oh yeah.
the first time that Cassidy and I ever talked to each other was a Facebook Live on the day that Aaron Rodgers tested positive for COVID-19.
Yeah.
We had never talked to each other before that.
That was my first day.
I mean, you want to talk about making an entrance. Holy smokes. That was unforgettable. And that was the first time we talked. And yeah, it's going to be wildly different without your enthusiasm around. Just, we talk about it's a long season. The monotony of a season, breaking it up with that enthusiasm was always very, very nice. And the second when you told me, the second you said, how close it was to your family, like that's just, it's a no-brain decision. Family's what matters most, and I'm thrilled for you to be able to have that distance narrowed considerably to your home base, and wish you nothing but the best. Go crush it just like you did this.
Thanks, guys. We'll still have a podcast together after.
Wait,
this.
I'm not done. I haven't had my 60 seconds yet.
He's going to take his 60.
Go for it. You never take your full 60.
I'm going to throw some shade on this one.
Oh, boy.
So I've never, ever cheered for the Packers before, but I am going to I want them to put an ass whooping on the Panthers for hiring you 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the damn season ends.
Right?
So that
Terrible timing,
Ryan
Panthers.
and I are going to have to work twice as hard as we did prior to this. So, yeah, I hope they make your locker room so bad after the game.
And
that
everyone
you don't get a single story
Wow,
out
y'all
of it.
are so kind.
Everyone in Green Bay will know it was your fault for giving the Panthers all the secrets that you're taking to Carolina.
Yeah, they're going to be like Cassidy. Why were they so fired up to play the Panthers? God, they looked like they were on a mission.
I'm going to prove this to you, Cassidy. You made a mistake. No, not a mistake.
No, but I'm not done.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
Yeah, no, I want to also say that it's been a pleasure working with you. We've had some great professional and personal times together, sharing an office and just being on the road and all that kind of stuff. It's been really a blast. And I read the comments, all of the comments on your Twitter feed when you announced it, and it was so overwhelmingly positive that I almost shed a tear. It's so good because it was a tear
Oh,
of
you were capable
tear
of
of jealousy because I know mine won't be like that.
They
But
would stop
it
the
was
traffic when you retire.
Right.
it reminded me that you brought stuff to this beat that nobody has brought before, and that's really that's an ultimate compliment. So
Thank you.
congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And you finally had a good story idea today. So I mean, dang,
One
you're
in
on
2
a
years
roll.
ain't bad.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
goes
you're on a
as soon
roll.
as she's on the roll. She bows out.
But I'm glad we'll have one more game together.
Yeah.
So.
And technically kind of two.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We'll see you in
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Carolina.
Charlotte.
Well, I won't be there in Charlotte, so that'll
You
be.
You'll
won't
be
be
buying
missed.
Pete and I dinner that night.
Put it on the Panthers card.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes, that's right.
Hope my new boss doesn't see this.
Yeah.
But no, definitely, actually bittersweet. The real definition of bittersweet. But it's going to be exciting and looking forward to a final few days here. So until then, we will have more wrap-up coverage for you from this week leading up to the Packers versus the Bucks, including the first good story idea I've had in 2 years, according to Spoon. So make sure you stay tuned to PackersNews.com for all of that. Spoon will have his live blog starting on Sunday about 30 minutes before kickoff.
Go Packers against the Panthers.
I'm clipping that.
First time that's
First time
ever been
ever.
said out of my mouth.
This is-
Not quite a go
Or
pack go,
Watch
but
that be the Panthers' only second win of the season because they're playing this on a loop as their bulletin board material.
That's right.
But yes, and then we will have full coverage for you from Packers versus Bucks on Sunday, including wrap-up coverage there as well. So stay tuned to PackersNews.com for all of that. Until then, we'll see you next time. For the final time, at least for me. Okay, bye. This has been the Green 19 podcast from JS Online and PackersNews.com.